Good morning and Jai Hind, dear children. Welcome back to my English class. Today's topic is something which is very important. And yes, you all might have been, consciously or unconsciously, you all might have been using those things since a long time, isn't it? Like, if I talk about sentence, aren't we aware of the parts of sentences? Well, yes, we all are aware and well versed with the parts of sentences. Now, children, today's topic is something which deals with sentence and something which you all have come across, and that is clause. Yes, definitely, clause might be little bit familiar because in class 7 you all have done clause, and we'll be dealing with the same in class 8 as well. But this time we'll be dealing with the clause a little bit more. And yes, we'll have fun a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, that beautiful background which I'm having, that is nothing but just a pun. Okay, what is the difference between a cat and a comma? Can you guess that? I don't know. I mean, it was really funny. But then when I actually, tried to analyze, and then I just came to know, well, I'll just shift a little so that it is visible. No. Okay, so in that case, I'll read. One is what is the difference between a cat and a comma? Okay, so you see a pussy cat is there. All right. And the pun is that one is a pause at the end of a clause and the other has clause at the end of its pause. So you see, we are talking about these pause, cute little pause. It has clause towards the end. And what about clause? They have a pause in the sentence, isn't it? So we'll be dealing with the basic types of clause, okay? And this time we'll be dealing with adjective clause. All right. Now, basically, what is a clause? Now, to understand what is a clause, we need to understand the difference between a phrase, a sentence, and then a clause. Okay, so the very first thing which I would start with is what is a phrase? We all know that a sentence is a group of words which makes a complete sense. Okay, and it would have a subject, it would have a predicate, and it would also have a verb. Okay, so now let's look at the second thing, that is a phrase. Now, what is a phrase? Good question. Well, children, those who know, it's fine. Those who are a little bit confused can just jot it down. Well, a phrase is a group of words that make sense, but not a complete sense. Okay, so it'll make sense. It'll sound a little bit sensible. You would understand. But yes, it will not make a complete sense. Okay, why? Because, it doesn't have a subject, neither does it have a predicate. So that means a phrase will have neither a subject nor a predicate. So now it is very well understood that a sentence, supposing if it doesn't have a subject or a predicate, so will it make any sense? A big no. Okay, so let's just take a quick look. What's a phrase? A group of words which doesn't have a subject or a predicate is a phrase. Let's take a look at two sentences. Okay, he left us in the morning. He left us when the morning came. Now, the group of words in sentence 1, that is, he left us in the morning, in that in the morning has a meaning or makes sense. Okay, but it does not make a complete sense, does it? In the morning. What in the morning? Or who in the morning? Or what did you do in the morning? We are not mentioning that, right? So it is not a sentence. Okay, children, for it has no subject and it does not have any predicate also. So such a group of sentence will be a phrase. That means in the sentence, he left us in the morning, he left us, it is understood. Okay, fine, that he left us, he might have had some work, so he left us. Okay, now in the morning is the phrase. Why it's a phrase? Because it does not have a subject, neither does it have a predicate. Okay, all right. Now, he left us when the morning came. Now, in this sentence, when the morning came is not a phrase. Why it is not a phrase? Can anybody guess? Well, I can give you time. So I can get the feel that I'm getting a little bit of, vibes of understanding from you all, my lovely children. Okay, fine. Let's unveil the secret. It is not a phrase. Why? Because it has a subject. And what is the subject here? The morning. Okay. And a predicate came of its own. So now this is a clause. Okay, so that means clause is a group of words which has a subject and a verb. Okay, now the verb in this set of words, this group of words acts as a predicate. Okay, children, please do not get confused. In this sentence, he left us when the morning came. Okay, he left us is one part of the sentence, when the morning came. So when the morning came is a group of words which is having a subject. And what was the subject? The subject was the morning and when the morning came. Now here the verb came is actually acting as a predicate of the sentence. Okay, so that is the reason why came is acting as a predicate in this sentence, and thereby when the morning came is nothing but a clause. All right. Okay, so now what do we decipher? What is a clause? Okay, so it sounds a little bit, similar to a sentence, isn't it? So now let's see what is a clause. So a clause is nothing but a group of words that forms a part of a larger sentence, has a subject, and has a predicate of its own. Okay, so didn't I tell you that when the morning came, how it has got a subject and what is the predicate here? Well, you can just, write the formula. This is Shomi ma'am's formula. Copyright reserved. Okay, so the formula is that subject plus verb is nothing but a clause. The main ingredient of a clause is that it will have a subject and a verb. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay, all right. Now, we can say one more thing that actually struck my mind right now. Well, that is that, do you think a phrase will have a finite verb? Do you think so? Will it have? Well, a phrase cannot stand on its own. Okay, it needs so many helping hands. Okay, but when I'm talking about a clause, it may stand on its own or it may not stand on its own. Standing on its own doesn't mean that it will have, paws or claws or legs to stand. Okay, so I'm not talking about that. It actually means that will it have some parts of sentences as its helping hand or not? Okay, now in a phrase, I told you that it will not have a subject, it will not have a predicate. But yes, in a clause, it does it does have a subject, and it will have a predicate, and the predicate will be nothing but the verb in that set of that group of words. That verb will act as a predicate. Now what is happening? Now when I'm talking about the sentence, please remember that sentence will express a complete thought, and sentence will have a subject and a predicate, and it will at least have one finite verb. Okay, and the same funda goes for the clause also. That means the clause will also have one finite verb. Okay, now let us proceed. Let us see. What do we have next? Now, next we'll be talking about the basic type of clause. Okay, so there are precisely two basic type of clause. Okay, the first is called the dependent clause, or you may call it a principal clause, or you may call it to be the main clause. So it is just nothing but it's something like synonymous to each other. Okay, the main clause, the principal clause, and the independent clause, not the dependent. Okay, dependent is just a subordinate one. Okay, so let's talk about the very first thing, that is the main clause. What is a main clause and what is a subordinate clause? So main clause is known by the name of a principal clause. Main clause is also known by the name of independent clause. Okay, all right. So let us take one example. Well, yes, this is the example which is given on page number 169 of your grammar books. The girl who came yesterday was Manisha's sister. Okay, so now when I'm, if I ask you to just, disintegrate the whole sentence, to just divide it into two parts in such a way that one part would have a complete sentence and the other part would have a part of the sentence that enhances the meaning, that I would say that exemplifies all the more the meaning of the sentence. Okay, so the first part, I think I would say the girl was Manisha's sister. So now in this we have a subject, we have a predicate. Now what are we left with? We are left with one group of words, that is, who came yesterday? Okay, who came yesterday? So now this set of words is what? Who can tell me? What is it? Now, this part of the sentence can stand on its own, isn't it? The underlined part, which one am I talking about? The part which has got subject and the predicate. I'm talking about the girl was Manisha's sister. That is solely a complete and a meaningful sentence, isn't it? But if I talk about who came yesterday, can it stand on its own? Not exactly. It has to depend on the rest of the sentence to convey its meaning. Who came yesterday, it sounds a little bit, incomplete, isn't it? Now, to complete the meaning of the sentence, it has to depend on one part. Okay, all right. So it has to depend on one part. Now, hereby, a clause that can stand on its own. Please listen to this very carefully. A clause which can stand on its own is called the main clause, or it's called the principal clause. Okay, understood? All right. Now, that was the main clause. Okay, now what can we talk about? What can we rather, define what is a dependent clause. Now, a dependent clause is also known by the name of subordinate clause. Okay, why subordinate? Because, it needs help. It needs help from the other part of the sentence to help it out, to bring about the full meaning of the sentence. Okay, so that means a clause that cannot stand on its own and has to depend on the main clause to complete its meaning is called the subordinate clause. Okay, so the part which needs help, which craves for help, that is the subordinate clause. Okay, so I think let me share something which I came across. It was very interesting. I was just going through few things in Google, and they have such beautiful library, I would say, like what is a subordinate clause, or what are clause. All right, so this is one thing which I came across, and it's actually worth watching. Okay, so let me see. My internet is playing little bit hide and seek, it seems. Look, okay, till the time, oh yeah, it has come. All right, so till the time I can, till the time my internet helps me out, I would, yeah. Okay, so I was talking about this. The subordinate clause is a type of clause which relies on the main clause in order to form a full sentence. Okay, it cannot make a complex sentence. Okay, this type of a clause has a verb and a subject just like any other clause. Okay, and it is also known as dependent clause. All right, now let's see. I met my wife in London, where she grew up from a young age. So I met my wife in a London. It is the main clause. Why main clause? Because it has got a subject, it has got a predicate, and it is a complete one. Where she grew up from a young age. Now this needs a little bit help, so that the sentence is full. Full in the sense it is complete in its meaning, right? So that is the reason why, here it is highlighted, just to make all of us understand that it needs help, so we need to help it. All right, so that is the reason why I met my wife in London is, it's helping it out. It's helping this part of the sentence to make it a complete sentence. Now let's see. Once my husband finishes work, we will go shopping. So we will go shopping when? When my husband finishes work. Now if I say once my husband finishes work, so what after that? What will you do? Will you dance? Will you go for a movie, or will you go for a dinner, or will you play with your family members? What will you do? We are not knowing that, isn't it? So it's incomplete if I just keep it like that. Once my husband finishes work, right? So now if I say we will go shopping, so it's okay, fine. We'll go shopping. It's a complete sentence. Okay. So that is the reason why it is highlighted, because we are talking about the dependent clause. We are talking about the subordinate clause. So this is the subordinate clause. Okay. Now let us see. My son has to be in at 7 o'clock because I told him to be. So because I told him to be is the subordinate clause. Okay. Let me see, do I have anything else? Okay. This is a very good advertisement. All right, now let me show you something else. Okay. Yeah. Where is that gone? That was a very nice one. Okay, let me see if I. Yeah, this is one thing which I wanted to share long time back. This I want you all to just write it somewhere. The difference between a clause and a phrase. A clause is a part of the sentence that contains a verb. A typical clause consists of a subject and a predicate, the latter typically a verb phrase, a verb with any objects and other modifiers. This is a clause. Now, what is a phrase? Phrase is a small group of words that adds meaning to a sentence. A phrase is not a sentence because it is not a complete idea with a subject, verb, and a predicate. Okay, so this you all have to remember. Don't forget it. All right, let me, yeah. Now I wanted to, show you all something very interesting. Um, Let me just find it out for you. Yeah, okay. Now, okay, so by now I think you all must have understood what is main clause, what is subordinate clause. Okay, and I guess there is one point which I missed, and you know what was that? Any idea? We did this subordinate clause, right? These were various examples. Now, there is one point that is there are conjunctions. I hope you all haven't forgotten what are the coordinating conjunctions and what are the subordinating conjunctions. When we are studying clauses, phrases, sentences. There are few things which are very important and which everybody should remember. Okay, and thereby I would say that this acronym which I'm about to, share with all of you is very, very, very important. And I still remember that I had discussed this when we were talking about conjunctions, and definitely in class 7 also you all have done this. And this is very familiar, that is fanboys. It is not something very unusual, and actually it is an acronym for the conjunctions, that is the coordinating conjunctions. Coordinate means what? Putting things together, right? That means when we are joining things together, when we are trying to fix things together. So the conjunctions are what? They are the linking words, isn't it? They are the connectors. Okay, so there are few connectors which are called, coordinating conjunctions, and there are conjunctions which are called subordinating conjunctions. Now, in a clause, you have to remember these conjunctions very well. Okay, because they play a very important role when we study about the clauses. Okay, so before I proceed with the the adjective clause, let's take a quick look at the conjunctions. Okay, specifically the coordinating conjunctions, and then we'll switch on to the subordinating conjunctions as well. Just a brief. Okay, so I was talking about the fanboys conjunctions. Fanboys is nothing but F stands for, A is and, N is nor, B is but, O is or, and what is why? Who can tell me what is why? Y is yet, and S is so. Okay, that is how it is a fan boys. Now let's take a quick look at their, how they are used in a sentence. If I'm talking about the conjunction, the very first letter of fanboys, that is for, we listened eagerly, for he brought news of our families. Isn't it? That means we listened eagerly. Why? Because he brought news of our families. Isn't it? That is how this for is used. Let's take a quick look at and. It's very simple. She didn't speak to anyone and nobody spoke to her. I can say the girl tried and succeeded in her in achieving her goals, isn't it? So that is how and is used. Now let's see the third letter of the fanboys, that is N for nor. I don't expect children to be rude, nor do I expect to be disobeyed. That means I don't expect children to do either of these two. They are not supposed to, to be rude, and neither are they expected to be disobeyed. All right. So I don't expect children to be rude. That means that is out of my expectations. And nor do I expect to be disobeyed. That means I don't want myself to be disobeyed. Whatever I say, you all need to obey. You all need to listen to me very carefully, because whatever I'm saying, that is actually beneficial and it will be fruitful if you pay attention. Okay, so that is how nor is used. Now what about but? They rushed to the hospital, but they were too late. Oh my gosh, they should have been, just on time, isn't it? Okay, now or, I'll go shopping, or I'll go what? Let's see, what was this? I will go shopping, or I'll go camping, or maybe I'll go partying, or maybe I'll go for movies. Okay, so that was or, and yet he had lots of work to do, yet attended the party. Okay, yet he was, yeah, I think that's fine. Yet he attended the party. That means he still attended the party. Okay, so precisely that, then you have so. So it's very simple. Like, let me give you an example. I had to give an exam, so I wasn't able to come on time. Okay, so that is how, I'm trying to connect two sentences. Okay, so those were precisely, the conjunctions, the fanboys conjunctions. Now, when you are joining together two words, phrases, or clauses which have an equal grammatical rank, you all will need to use a coordinating conjunction. Now, these were the fanboys. Okay, and fanboys are the coordinating conjunctions. Now, they are the connecting words that join two similar constructed words in a sentence. And they are maybe for, but, or, and, because, nor, so, and yet. Okay. Now, when two independent clauses are linked to form a compound sentence, there should be a comma before the coordinating conjunction. This is one do. That means this is one rule to be noted. And what is the rule? The rule says when, let me just highlight it. Yeah, okay. When two independent clauses are linked to form a compound sentence. That means like the sentences which, yes, if I like the sari, no, it was raining, so I took out an umbrella. Okay, now it was raining is one part, and so I took out umbrella. So now, where will that small punctuation comma lie? Isn't it? That is a point to be noted. So please listen to this very carefully, children, because you need to remember all these things while practicing the exercises. I was saying it was raining, so I took out an umbrella. So the comma will be before the conjunction, okay, after the main clause. So what was the main clause? It was raining. Then put a comma and then the conjunction will come. That is, so I took out an umbrella. So that means, children, what was the clause here? Ah, yes, it was. So I took out an umbrella. Okay, so now I hope everybody understood, isn't it? Again, when two adjectives, nouns, verbs, or adverbs are linked, for instance, in the cases of compound predicates, putting a comma is not necessary. This also you all have to remember. You use a coordinating conjunction for, and, nor, but, or yet, or so. That means the fan voice to join individual phrases, words, and individual clauses. Now, if a clause can stand alone, it is an independent clause. Okay, so do not forget that. Okay, now let's see independent clause. He was afraid of getting home late. He managed to make a call. The above two sentences are independent clauses, and to combine them, we have to use either comma or a semicolon. Okay, and we have to use one coordinating conjunction. So how do we do that? Let us see. He was afraid of getting home late, comma, so he decided to make a call. Okay, so now I'm actually, what am I doing? I'm just, look at this, the highlighted portion. This is one independent clause, and this one, he decided to make a call. Now I'm adding these two independent clauses with one coordinating conjunction, which is a part of fan voice, that is so. Okay, so I actually added this clause, this coordinating conjunction, and if you can see this small punctuation mark in this after late, so that is what is differentiating. Okay, understood? All right, now let us see one more thing, although I don't think it's there in your syllabus of class 8, but still, since we are dealing with it, let's just take a quick look. So what is a compound predicate? A compound predicate is a situation whereby one subject is shared by more than one verb in a sentence. Okay, like he wondered when she would get home and decided to call. Now this sentence, it does not actually, appear to have much difference from the independent clauses. But in this, we have to note that she is the subject, which is being shared by two verbs. The first verb is this one, decided. And the second verb used here is wondered. Okay. And the subject is, where is that subject gone? Yeah, it's here, she. Okay. So this she is the subject and it is shared by two verbs, that is decided and wondered. Okay, so now and consequently what is happening? No independent clause because the whole sentence has only one subject. So as such, in this whole sentence, there is no independent clause. Okay, why? What is the reason for this sentence not having one independent clause? The reason is very simple, because there are no two subjects, isn't it? If you have two subjects, then only one will be the main clause and the other will have subject and the verb acting as a predicate. Now here there is only one person, that is she, and she is the subject. That is the reason why it is not having a main clause. Okay, now let us, I think that is enough for the very first thing. Okay, now by now I believe you all can do the exercise, especially the first exercise. The first exercise is on page number 170 of your grammar book, of your new English grammar book of class 8. That is Climb with Cornerstone. Okay, so I want you all to do this. It's very simple. Jagrati likes painting, comma, but I prefer clay modeling. So you need to mark out the main clause and the coordinate clause, or the subordinate clause in these sentences. It's pretty simple. I'm not going to tell you. You yourself will do it and then we'll discuss it in our live classes. Okay. So now next is, it's the adjective clause. Wow. Well. For adjective clause, we need to understand what is an adjective. Very simple. Who can tell me? I presume everybody knows what is an adjective. An adjective is a word that qualifies or that enhances the meaning of a noun in a sentence. Okay. Now, let us see the three types of subordinate clause. Okay, the very first type which we'll be dealing with, that is the adjective clause. Now, it's very simple. Why simple? Because we know what is an adjective. It's just that we need to understand what are the things to be kept in mind to decipher, to surmise which part of the sentence has got an adjective clause. So let's take a quick look. Okay, so here we go. An adjective clause is a group of words which contains a subject, a predicate of its own, and does the work of an adjective. That means that particular group of words which has got a subject and a predicate of its own will work as an adjective. That sounds very interesting. Okay, for example, they expected to win the match. Okay, so they expected what? They expected to win the match. Now, to win the match is actually helping our expectations. Now, if I say they expected that they would win the match. Now, here also, if I question, they expected what? Then what do I get as an answer? I get that they expected that, that they would win the match. Isn't it? Now, the first group of sentence to win the match, it does not have a subject and a predicate. Isn't it? So that means it is not a clause. Okay? So we'll remember that it is not a clause and it is a phrase. Right? Now, when I'm saying they expected that they would win the match. So here they expected what? That they would win the match. So it is having a subject and a predicate, right? So that is how, we will decipher what is the clause. Okay. And you would find, conjunctions there. Now let us see the adjective clauses a little bit more closely. This is the book that I'm reading. There is the woman who took my interview. Now, this is the book that I'm reading. So, if I want to, talk more about the book, so then I can say that this is the very book which I'm reading right now. So, which book? So I can, I'm actually talking about the present book which I'm reading, isn't it? So that means the book which I'm reading. Let me show some book if I have. Okay. So I'll show you. This is the book which I'm reading, and it is named as, I think this is the mirror image which will be a problematic. So the book which I'm reading is Living English for Seniors. Okay, so that means I'm talking about that book which, I'm having it right now and I'm reading. Okay, so the book which I'm reading, that means I'm talking about that book, isn't it? That book which I'm reading, that is the part of the clause. Okay, now when I'm saying there is the woman who took my interview, that means I'm pointing out to that woman, that particular woman, that what, that is a particular woman who took my interview in that school. So that means I'm pointing, I'm enhancing, I'm adding that portion extra to that woman, that she's the one who took my interview, isn't it? So that means I'm elucidating, I'm exemplifying all the more about that particular woman, isn't it? So that part of the sentence, who took my interview, is the clause. Okay, now here we'll come across few terms like antecedents. Okay, now what is an antecedent? Now in that particular sentence, the woman is the antecedent. The nouns book and woman are called the antecedents to the relative pronouns that and who. Remember the relative pronouns? Relative pronouns are that, I mean the pronouns which you have come across in the in the version of that or who. So they point out, they relate, they are relative, isn't it? Relative to that noun, particular noun. So that is relative pronoun. So you have to just start recollecting the pronouns, the conjunctions, the subjects, the predicates. These are few things which will come across every now and then when you are doing English grammar. Okay, so the antecedents in these two sentences are the nouns just before these, the very first one, it's just before that. That means that relative pronoun. So the noun which is just before the relative pronoun, okay, so that is called the antecedents. Okay, so now in these two sentences, it was book, and the second sentence, it was the woman, which were the antecedents. Now, subordinate clause that works the work of an adjective is called the adjective clause. Now, the adjective clause are also known by the name of relative clause. Okay, why they are called relative clause? Precisely, I can just say that, because it contains a relative pronoun, might be, and it is relating to the, the noun. It is enhancing. it is giving more meaning to the noun used in the sentence. Okay, maybe that is the reason why it is called relative clause. Okay, now adjective clause should be placed as close as possible to the noun or the pronoun it modifies. Actually it is something like placed beside. Remember the prepositions which we did? So yeah, so in this sentence, if I say this is the book that I'm reading, so here the book is the noun, isn't it? And that is the relative pronoun, and it is placed side by side, right? So it is always placed very at a very close proximity. Okay, now the relative pronouns which you might come across would be w to the power of 3, that is w cube. And what are those w's? Who, whom, or whose, right? So these pronouns, they refer to the person, or the refer to the person which are used in the main clause. Okay, they would be used to show the relativity with the main clause. Okay, like I have a pen friend who lives in Dubai. So I have a pen friend, that is the main clause. Now pen friend is the noun, and I'm using another group of words to qualify, to enhance more about the noun, the antecedent which is used here in the form of pen friend. Okay, clear? Understood? Good. Okay, the artist whom I adored is no more. Now here, whom is the relative pronoun and the artist is the antecedent, and artist is definitely the noun which is being qualified as by saying whom I adored the most, isn't it? Okay, now let's come to now till now, children, we were trying to relate with the persons, right? Now let's jump on to those relative pronouns which talk about maybe some things, maybe some animals, maybe some birds. Okay, now they would begin with the relative pronouns as that, which, those. Okay, so it is like T square W. Okay, T square means that, and those, and W is which. So T square W is that, those, and which. Now these are the relative pronouns which are used to denote maybe animals, birds, and things. Okay, let's take an example. This is the watch that my uncle gave me. So this is the watch is the main clause that my uncle gave me. So that means I'm pointing to that watch, that was given by my uncle, isn't it? Okay, this is the road which leads to the stadium. So that means I'm pointing to the road. Now the road is the antecedent. It is a noun used, and which leads to the stadium is actually enhancing the meaning of that word, that particular antecedent road. That means, that is the road. That is the road which everyone should take. Why? Because it would lead to the stadium, and that's a shortcut. Okay, so that was relative pronoun. Now just look at the screen which I have been, which I have actually placed long time back. There is a rule that says a subordinate clause that modifies or describes a noun or a pronoun in a complex sentence. This we have to remember when I'm talking about the adjective clause. And adverb clause, okay, so now this is the adverb clause. Now let's see what do we have in this adjective clause. So that was the adjective clause. Okay, now we will do the quiz after we, finish off with our clauses. Not now, because I don't want my children at all to be confused. Okay, okay. This is very nice. Now, please remember who it is used to refer people, which is used for animals, ideas, objects, then whose possession, that is again used for people, animals, or objects, where for places, when for time. Now, these you might come across while you are talking about the clauses. Okay? All right. So let's take few more examples. Because the more examples you take, the better will be your understanding. All right. Now, adjective clause or relative clause means a clause that acts as an adjective or it qualifies noun. So that is quite self-explanatory. Why? Because adjective has to qualify a noun, isn't it? While adjectives are used before the names they describe, adjective clause comes after the name it defines. Like today, I saw a blue car which was parked in front of my car. Now, half sentence comes after who, whom, and which. That is, these words decrease the subject or object after them. Now, let us take the second case. The full sentence comes after where, when, and why. And unless there is a comma and preposition on the left, it can be used in place of who, whom, which, when, and why. Now note that in adjective clause sentences, that doesn't come after commas and prepositions. Okay, let's take a quick look. The orange that he bought was delicious. Now, yes, when I'm talking about the adjective clause, see, there is no comma. So we have to remember that. I hate Tom, who always complains. So here also there is no comma. Okay. I visited the town where they met. Do you find a comma here? No, we don't find. So that we have to remember that in an adjective clause, there is no room, no space for a comma. Okay. You won't find any comma before these relative pronouns. Okay, all right. I think that that is very much understood. Okay, now so this we have done. We need to remember the relative pronouns. Okay, so now let me stop sharing. Yeah, that was a fun time. Okay, so those relative pronouns, please remember T square, W, that is those, and it was that, and which. They are used for non-living things. It can be, non-living things, not only non-living things. I'm sorry. You can use it for animals, birds also. Okay. The words when, where, and why, that is W to the power of 3. They can be used like a relative pronouns to begin an adjective clause which refers to time, place, and a reason as well. Okay, for example, do you know the time when the classes would begin? So here I'm using it for time. Okay. If I say I recently visited the school where I studied as a child. So I recently visited the school, that is the main clause. It's clearly defined. Where I studied as a child. So where means I'm talking about that school, and that school is nothing but a place. It is denoting a place, and the school is the antecedent. Okay, so thereby this where is used as a relative pronoun denoting place, right? Now, no one knows the reason why we lost. Or if I say no one knows the reason why he committed suicide, right? So why is used to denote a reason, isn't it? So that is what is an adjective clause. So it was fun teaching the adjective clause today. So please remember to do your exercises. And I can see precisely there's only 2 exercises under adjective clause, and there was only 1 exercise under the subordinate and the main clause. All right. So this adjective clause, it is, the question is underline the adjective clauses and point out the noun or the pronoun they qualify. So I think you can do it in the book itself. And then exercise C, that is joining the sentences. And you need to join it and make it into an adjective clause. So that can be also done in the book itself. So that's all from my side. And I hope that today's explanation was fruitful for all of you, and I'm sure by now everybody is well versed with the basic types of clauses. That is, let me just recap. It's a main clause, which is also known as the principal clause, which is also known as the independent clause. Then I talked about the subordinate clause, which is also known by the name of the dependent clause. Okay, and it depends on the main clause. The main clause will have a subject and a predicate of its own, but the dependent clause always depends on the main clause. Okay, then we talked about the type of the subordinate clause, that is the type of the dependent clause, and we dealt with the adjective clause, in which the adjective clause works as an adjective for the noun of the main clause, for the main sentence. Okay, so that was all for today's class, and I'm looking forward to the completion of all the work, and very soon we'll be starting with the class tests. So please keep learning, and if you have any doubts, you may always text me on my personal window. Until then, stay blessed, stay safe, and keep learning. Thank you, and Jai Hind. See you again with yet another topic. Till then, bye bye, take care.